This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
As Algeria calls for a meeting on Palestine on the sidelines of the 80th UN General Assembly, Diplomacy Chief Ahmed Attaf has affirmed that the attempt to erase the Palestinian cause only reinforces its legitimacy. The 80th UN General Assembly opens against the backdrop of the genocidal war in Gaza, which the UN Secretary General describes as the darkest chapter in history. Meanwhile, the suffering of the Palestinians continues, with more than 70 Palestinian civilians losing their lives in the Israeli occupying forces bombardment. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm your host, Miriam Bershi. In a firm and deeply committed speech before the United Nations Security Council, Algeria's Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has reiterated Algeria's unconditional support for the Palestinian cause. During the high-level meeting on the sidelines in Palestine, on the situation in Palestine and the Middle East convened at the initiative of Algeria and the Islamic member states of the Security Council, Ahmed Attaf stressed that attempts to erase the Palestinian cause have only strengthened its legitimacy and justice. The Algerian foreign minister recalled that the history of the region is closely linked to the resolutions of the Security Council itself, which established that there is no viable alternative to the two-state solution. Ahmed Attaf bluntly denounced that what the Gaza Strip has been experiencing for almost 2 years constitutes a full-fledged genocidal war, a claim supported by reports from the UN Commission of Inquiry. Added to this, a situation of famine also recognized by the United Nations, as well as Israel's open implementation of plans for forced displacement, reoccupation and annexation of Palestinian territories. Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf recalled that reducing the issue of Middle East security to October 7, 2023 is a partial and biased view that ignores the decades of structural conflict with the Palestinian cause at the center of the regional stage.
فمسألة الأمن في الشرق الأوسط ليست وليدة أحداث السابع من أكتوبر 2023.
Security in the Middle East is not an issue born on October 7, 2023, as some try to present it. That day cannot be the starting point or the exclusive framework for understanding the situation. The history of the region, parallel to that of this organization, demonstrates that the Palestinian cause remains the central issue that cannot be ignored, marginalized, or silenced. Today we are witnessing how attempts to liquidate this cause have only reinforced its legitimacy as the most just cause on the planet. And the history of the region, reflected in the resolutions of this council, confirms that there is no alternative to the two-state solution and that the establishment of a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital is essential. This is the only just, lasting and definitive solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
The Algerian foreign minister also warned about Israel's policy of military expansion throughout the region, citing recent attacks against Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, Iran and Qatar. In his words, this unjust reality is part of a dangerous strategy aimed at imposing total regional hegemony and eliminating any possibility of establishing a Palestinian state. In his remark, Foreign Minister Attaf emphasized that peace and stability in the Middle East will remain an illusion as long as the Israeli occupation continues to benefit from a regime of impunity that defies international law and the authority of the Council.
وتاريخ المنطقة متجذر في الشرعية الدولية.
The history of the region, rooted in international law, also demonstrates the urgent need to end the regime of exceptionalism enjoyed by the Israeli occupation, impunity, lack of accountability, and lack of punishment. Today we also see how the majority of member states of the General Assembly have understood the need to curb and sanction those who consider themselves above all norms, principles, and laws that govern others. Beyond all this, the history of the region confirms that there will be no security or stability in the Middle East without this Council fully assuming the responsibilities it bears, the fate of the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian people, and all the peoples and states of the region remains conditioned by the will of this Council and its ability to command respect for its decisions and international law, and to sanction the violations that continue to occur unchecked, uncontrolled, and without consequences.
دون حسيب أو رقيب أو عتيد.
Algeria's firm stance was held by the Embassy of the State of Palestine in Algeria, which described Minister Attaf's intervention as historic and exemplary. In a statement, the embassy emphasized that this defense of the rights of the Palestinian people represents the fundamental principles of Algerian foreign policy, the commitment to justice, law, and self-determination. The embassy also recalled that Algeria was the first country to officially recognize the State of Palestine in 1988, an act that marked the beginning of the international recognition, which now extends to 159 states. During his stay in New York, Ahmed Attaf also held a meeting with the President of Namibia, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. Both sides reaffirmed the strength of their historic relations, forged in the anti-colonial struggle, and their willingness to continue collaborating in defense of the just causes of the African continent and the world, especially those of Palestine and Western Sahara. And as every September, world leaders gathered at the United Nations headquarters in New York to participate in the high-level week of the General Assembly, a key moment for setting global priorities and addressing humanity's most urgent challenges. Jamal Slimani reports.
This year, as the UN commemorates its 80th anniversary, Secretary-General Antonio Guterres opened the proceedings with an urgent call for multilateralism, evoking the organization's founding purpose to provide a practical strategy for humanity's survival after the horrors of World War II. In this context, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf participated in the General Assembly with a clear position in defense of international law and the rights of the Palestinian people. The backdrop of this edition was the worsening conflict in Gaza, which Guterres himself described before the Security Council as one of the darkest chapters of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In his address, the Secretary-General expressed his deep concern about the deteriorating humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip, as well as the growing destabilization of the entire region.
The principles of the United Nations that you have established are under siege. Listen, the pillars of peace and progress are buckling under the weight of impunity, inequality, and indifference. Sovereign nations invaded, hunger weaponized, truce silence, rising smoke from bombed-out cities, rising anger in fractured societies, rising seas swallowing coastlines. Each one a warning, each one a question. What kind of world will we choose? A world of raw power or a world of laws? In Gaza, the horrors are approaching a third monstrous year. They are the result of decisions that defy basic humanity. The scale of death and destruction are beyond any other conflict in my years as Secretary General.
In his speech, Antonio Guterres also clearly addressed the continuing erosion of the political horizon for a lasting solution. The UN Foreign Minister warned that the viability of the two-state solution, a consensus reached by the international community for decades as the most just and sustainable way to resolve the conflict, is increasingly threatened. The commemoration of the UN's 80th anniversary occurs at a time when its credibility and effectiveness are being tested amid protracted conflicts, unprecedented humanitarian crises, and rising geopolitical tensions. Calls for respect for international law and the revitalization of multilateralism resonate more strongly than ever.
And at least 73 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli occupying force since its dawn, with 42 of them dying in the besieged Gaza city. Al-Shifa Hospital and an Ahli Hospital in Gaza City reported 17 and 25 deaths, respectively, and Nasser Hospital in southern Gaza said Israel's army killed another 16 people. The latest killings comes a day after UN Chief Guterres said the scale of death and destruction in Israel's war on Gaza was beyond any other conflict he has seen during his tenure. Local sources reported that hundreds of displaced families from the north of the Gaza Strip to the south are sleeping on the ground due to lack of shelter. This comes as the death toll of Palestinian people killed in the besieged enclave reached 65,419, the majority of whom were women and children since the beginning of the Israeli occupying forces' aggression in October 2023. At least 167,160 others have also been injured. This toll remains incomplete as many victims remain trapped under rubble, inaccessible to ambulance and rescue crews. Medical sources confirmed that since the Israeli entity broke the ceasefire agreement and resumed its aggression on the Gaza Strip on March 18, 2025, at least 12,823 civilians have been killed. In the West Bank, the Bedouin community of Jabal al-Baba, southeast of Jerusalem, faces a threat of forced displacement following the recent approval by the Israeli occupying authorities of the E1 colonial plan. The said community is home to approximately 450 residents who have lived there since their displacement from their land in 1948. Over the past years, the community has been subjected to more than 80 home demolitions amid repeated attacks by settlers on the occupation army, with each home subjected to demolition orders. It is worth noting that more than 7,000 Bedouin residents in 22 communities in the area face the threat of forced displacement due to the E1 colonial plan. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society has announced that its oxygen stations at Al-Quds Hospital in the Hawa neighborhood southeast of Gaza City has ceased operation after being shot at by Israeli occupying forces. In a statement, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society warned of the dangerous situation surrounding the hospital, adding that the oxygen station at Al-Quds Hospital in Gaza City has stopped working after being targeted by Israeli occupying forces. It said that the hospital is now relying on pre-filled oxygen cylinders, which will only last for 3 days, directly threatening the lives of patients. The society added that Israeli occupying vehicles are preventing entry and exit, warning of the dangerous conditions around the hospital, which threaten the safety of both patients and medical staff. And now back to Algeria. Army General Said Changrihas has visited Tbissa following a successful counter-terrorism operation. In a recent operation led in the Tbissa military sector, located within the 5th military region, the People's National Army successfully killed 6 terrorists and seized 6 Kalashnikov machine guns. The operation is part of ongoing efforts by the Algerian army to eradicate terrorism and enhance national security. Following the operation, the minister delegate to the Ministry of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Army General Said Changreha, visited the area to inspect the military units involved. Mr. Changreha addressed the troops, hailing their courage and determination in the face of danger. He praised the military personnel for their heroic actions and conveyed the congratulations and best wishes of the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. Army General Changreha also stressed the importance of continuing the fight against terrorism with unwavering resolve. He urged the soldiers to remain steadfast in their duty, prioritizing the security of Algeria and its citizens. The general highlighted the significance of this mission as a sacred duty, encouraging the troops to remain proud and committed to their role in securing the nation's peace and stability. The Speaker of the Arab Parliament, Mr. Mohammed Ahmed Al-Yamahi, sent a message of congratulations to the President of the National People's Assembly and President of the Arab Interparliamentary Union, Mr. Brahim Boughali, on the occasion of Algeria's accession to the Asian Interparliamentary Assembly as a single observer member. In his message, Mr. Al-Yamahi expressed his warm congratulations and high appreciation for this succession, praising the remarkable efforts made by Mr. Brahim Bughali at the head of the National People's Assembly, while assuring that this major achievement is a testament to the constructive parliamentary work carried out by the National People's Assembly and confirms Algeria's regional and international influence on the parliamentary scene. The President of the Arab Parliament concluded his message by expressing his most sincere wishes for prosperity and development to the brotherly Algerian people under the enlightened leadership of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Democratic Republic of the Congo DRC is advocating for Africa to be allocated 2 permanent seats and 2 additional non-permanent seats on the UN Security Council. This was said by President Félix Tshisekedi said during his address to the general debate of the 80th session of the UN General Assembly. Referring to the reform of the Security Council, the Congolese president reaffirmed the common African position, saying that the continent must obtain 2 additional non-permanent seats and 2 permanent seats with the same rights, including the right of veto, as well as the privileges and obligations of other members. At least 15 people died after a drone strike targeted one of the traditional markets in the middle of the city of El Fasher in Sudan. Of these attacks, 12 people were injured, 3 of whom were critical. The paramilitary rapid support forces are accused of masterminding the attack. And amid devastating war in Sudan, UN aid teams are overcoming major obstacles to curb a cholera outbreak, claiming lives across the country, with young children particularly at risk. Jamin Samani reports.
The World Health Organization WHO's deputy representative to the country, Hala Khudari, has reported that the outbreak, which started in July 2024 in Kassala, has spread to all 18 states of the country. Speaking from Port Sudan, she said that the past year saw surges in White Nile in Khartoum, among other states, resulting from the impact of the conflict and increased population movement.
I was actually in Khartoum earlier this month and witnessed firsthand the improvement of the cholera situation. It's a testament to the efforts of deployed WHO and health partners, strengthened surveillance, treatment of cases, and a targeted vaccination campaign, which resulted in a steady decline of the reported cases. At the end of May, the outbreak reached Darfur for the first time since July 2024. Reported cases in Darfur continue to increase amid severe access constraints that are impeding the required scale of response. According to the latest update, as of 2 days ago, 12,739 cases, as well as 328 deaths were reported in 36 of the 64 localities of the 5 Darfur states. This is 50% of the localities in the Darfurs.
Cholera is an acute intestinal infection that spreads through bacterial contaminated food and water. According to WHO, it can kill within hours when not treated, and case fatality rates above 1% indicate serious gaps in case management and delayed access to care.
Typhoon Ragasa, the world's most powerful tropical cyclone this year, struck the southern Chinese city of Yanjian on Wednesday after killing 17 people in Taiwan and lashing Hong Kong with ferocious winds and heavy rains. The typhoon was tracking towards Maoming, one of China's biggest oil refining cities. In Taiwan, 17 people were missing in the eastern Hualien County after the barrier lake overflowed and sent a wall of water into a town, while Ragasa brought Hong Kong to a standstill. Typhoon Ragasa has made landfall in China, where around 2 million people have been evacuated. And back to the country, the 4th evening of the Malouf International Cultural Festival held in Constantine offered the audience a musical experience of rare intensity, marked by an unprecedented artistic encounter between Syrian tradition and the rich sounds of Russia. With this, I invite you now to listen to a special program on the Malouf, and stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.